Hello, I'm Welton Gaddy, host of State of Belief Radio, sponsored by the Interfaith Alliance. At the Democratic Convention this morning, walking around, I ran into pollster Jim Gerstein, who had interesting numbers on the role of the Jewish community in this election. I asked him more general questions about the role of religion generally in the election and how that was going to look. We've talked about the Jewish role in this election. I want to broaden it and talk about religion generally. How significant is religion going to be in this election?
I mean, it's part of the ongoing discussion, right? And so I think it's important in terms of the narratives that are being told, but I don't think that it's going to, on its own, be an impact on how people vote.
Is your polling showing any difference this time among evangelicals?
I haven't seen any significant difference.
They seem to have changed convictions.
It's a base constituency for the Republicans, just as the Democrats, just as Jews are a base constituency for Democrats. And I don't think these are. I think these, the identity that they have, or the connection they have with these other political parties, be it evangelicals with Republicans or Jews with Democrats. They're not loosely held positions. People, these are close connections. They have shared values with those parties, and they express those in the way they vote.
Were you surprised that Governor Romney didn't talk about his religion? He had other people talk about it at the Republican convention.
I mean, he did make some reference to it.
He did,
and I think it's a personal choice of his, and I'm not surprised or not surprised one way or the other. I think I don't think it's at the center of what people are voting on and the message that he's trying to deliver. I think his message is not a strong one. I think he's a very weak candidate, but that has, in my view, that has nothing to do with the religious aspects of the election.
How important is it for President Obama to speak about religion, and especially does he need to try to prove again that he's not a Muslim?
I mean, I think you can only say things so often
right.
and talk until you're out of breath before you have to say, it's like the birthers. Yeah. He gave his birth certificate. He did all these things. He jumped through a million hoops, and Donald Trump is still out there, winking and nodding and saying, he really is. And you got Mitt Romney making his kind of
right.
silly jokes about it on the campaign trail. So I think people who want to believe something at this point are going to believe it, but I don't think that they were kind of making the difference in the election to begin with.
Right. One other question. Given all of the conversation that's gone on about women's rights, reproductive rights, the Catholic Church's, especially the bishops' response to this, how important, in your opinion, how important is what happens to religious freedom determined by this election? What's at stake here for religious freedom?
Well, I mean, I think religious freedom has different things to different people.
It does.
So what I can say is in terms of...
Let me just be specific then and go with the traditional, and I know even this can be ambiguous, but religious freedom, no church having the right of state endorsement, religious freedom, everybody having the right to practice their religion, and Jefferson's metaphor of the institutional separation of church and state.
Right. I mean, I don't think it matters who's president. I think the separation, that religious freedom, as you've described it, as the freedom to practice religion is without persecution, without penalty, is a pretty bedrock principle that people on both sides of the aisle share. So I don't see that being affected by who's. I don't think that the last 4 years have done anything to people's ability to practice religion. I don't think the 8 years under George Bush did anything to undermine or change people's ability to practice their religion. So that's probably one area where I don't think you're going to see much difference between who's elected.
You give me comfort.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you agree? I mean,
I actually would say that religious freedom eroded some under Bush, and my fear is that, and this could happen with either candidate, frankly, but the Catholic bishops push to redefine religious freedom in a way that says, yes, we believe in religious freedom, but we still want our exceptionalism over feminine issues, contraceptive issues, that kind of thing. That's what I'm worried about, is that kind of encroachment on the historical tradition.
Yeah, I mean, you know this issue much better than I do. I'm kind of speaking to how voters react to it as opposed to
and that's what I ask you,
right.
And that's
and
good.
So,
yeah, I understand.
So I see where
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to play to my board that I know more about it than you do.
Excellent. Please. Okay. Great.
Okay. Thanks, Jim.
Take care.